my name is Anel. Welcome to the Brave and Her podcast, where we inspire, empower, and motivate by sharing our stories of bravery. I strongly believe that by sharing our stories, we open ourselves to healing, but also serve to give hope and inspiration to those who are dealing with a tough situation. We will talk about all topics under the sun. Now let's hear your stories of bravery. So we were saying about how our parents were doing or did as the best they could when they were raising us based on, how they were raised, and the same way, like we can also do our best based on how we were raised. But every parent tried to do better, right? Like our parents, like how you were saying, like our parents did better than their parents, and for us to try to be better than our parents.
Yeah. And you know what I want to address? I don't know with you and now, but with me, my parents, well, like I said earlier, like no nacieron aquí, vienen de Mexico. And like, even if you go to Mexico right now, it's like going into the past.
Yeah.
The way they live, their thinking, all of that, it's still not evolving as quickly as the American culture, in my opinion. And so can you imagine like just like coming into a brand new country and then also trying to like acclimate to the new culture and raising your children in this capacity and all of it? In my case, I'm gonna say like there were 4 of us kids and my mom passed away when we were little. So even on top of all the changes and everything new, my dad was a single dad. My dad raised us on his own. So knowing all these things, and let alone the stuff that they can't even share, because a lot of times I think that we make a mistake by thinking someone, oh, they're overcomers, they're strong, they're not stuck in the past, they don't bring up the past, they don't deal with it, like they're over it. That's not necessarily the case. A lot of times we're not given the space to deal with it. We're not given that we're not given the listening ears or the words, the vocabulary to express what we're feeling, especially in that era. So we have this internal desire to have our needs fulfilled, but not everyone can fulfill them, including our parents.
Yeah, and like how you were saying in the beginning, how and in our culture, and I'm pretty sure in other different cultures too, as well, where we are raised to take care of others, but not ourselves. So I feel like our parents too, it's not that they were forced to stay quiet, but in a way they did, because something that I hear a lot is saying like, well, why am I going to quote unquote complain, or why am I going to say something and when nothing's going to change, or for what? Why am I going to say something? So I think oftentimes our parents stay quiet, from their frustrations, because nothing was really going to change. Like you said, they're right. They're living in a foreign country, and they're like between this country and their country, and it divided into different cultures. Like, do we raise our kids in this culture, or do we raise our kids in our culture? And it was a lot harder, I feel, for them than it really is for us.
I think the gap is huge. It's almost like a few generations could have gone in between, right? The gap from just coming into this country and raising the children here is so huge, and I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't, like, what we feel is still valid though, right? Like we can still mentally acknowledge these were the barriers, these were the restrictions, these were what held them back, and we can mentally acknowledge that, and then emotionally acknowledge that even though that is true, I still feel this way. I still have this trauma. I still struggle with forgiving them, etc. But how, and you know what, in the Christian churches and churches all over, I'm sure they're sharing about forgiveness, right? Forgive, forgive, forgive. I remember hearing this message throughout my life. And one of the things that I would not have in addition to that was how, when you have something deep, how do you forgive that? Something really hard happened. How do you forgive that? Because you can say, I forgive this person. You can say, I hung out with that person and I was laughing with them and I was doing this with them. And then something triggered you and the feeling is still there. The hurt, the resentment, the heaviness, it keeps coming up. And what I shared in this women's conference, because I did share my poem and then I was given a space to minister. And as I was reviewing the video, I said in that ministry time, I said, I don't know how other people do it. I don't know how other people lay their burdens down, as it says in the poem, or how do you break those chains?
Yeah.
How do you forgive? I don't know how other people do it, but how do I do it? I bring it to God, and I bring it just like I feel it deeply. And I come to him with my anger, with my sadness, resentment, all of it. All of it. I was taught you can't be mad at God. I was taught that, but I don't see how that's possible if I have this relationship with him. If for instance, I touched on the fact that my mom passed away when we were little. My most strongest prayer was that she would be healed. And let me tell you, I had the faith to move a mountain. She was not looking good. She was suffering. People were like saying their goodbyes and all of it. And I was still like, well, at any moment she's going to get up and everyone's going to be a believer. At any moment, this is going to end and she's going to be healed. And when that didn't happen, I was angry with God. I was angry at him. I would say, what's the point of praying? What is the point of believing? Why do we need a God if, God's supposed to be here to serve us, right? Like he's supposed to answer all these prayers. And that's not the case. And so in that anger, and I went into some dark places, let me tell you, looking back, like I seriously needed some psychological attention, but I went to those places and I just knew he was still real. Like, why would I be mad at someone that wasn't real, right? Like not only invisible, but like not even real. I was mad at a God, a real God. I was mad at him. And so I came to him with all of it. I came and I wrote about it and I said it out loud. And I would still go to church with my aunt who would take me to church. I would still go to church. I was still like, even in my teenage years and questioning and battling and all of it, I was struggling, but he was still real to me. And in that, he demonstrated his supernatural power to me in a really dark place of my life where I laid awake at night on the floor by my bed and I cried to him and I said, I don't get it. I don't understand. What do you pick and choose? Which one you answer? Which one? I don't get any of it. I don't get it. But I know that you're real and I want you to show me that you're real. I want to feel you. I want to stop feeling this sadness. I want to stop feeling this depression. I want to stop feeling all of this that is not letting me move forward. Mm-hmm. And what I felt that day will stay with me forever because that's how I know he was real, like feeling him feeling his presence. So there's a knowing that he's real and there's also a feeling him, which I feel is another level. And so I felt his presence in the form of a hug. And it was bringing me to a lot of tears and a lot of peace and a lot of comfort and a lot of what I needed. Love. That didn't matter how angry I was. It didn't matter how I felt toward him. He loved me there and anyways.
Yeah. I heard somewhere where someone said it's okay for, for us to feel angry towards God. He's a big boy, he can take it. Go to him because he already knows how you feel.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I respect everyone's, belief in that area or any area for that matter, but that is what I believe. That's what I experienced. And nobody taught me that. That was just me. Because if you have a relationship with literally, and especially people who are close to you, are you going to be angry with them at times? Yeah, that's normal, right? That's normal. You're going to love them and figure out what's going on, and it's valuable, right? And it's valid. And so that's how I feel with God. To me, I have nothing to hide. He knows it all. In anyways, if I'm angry inside or if I say it out loud, like he isn't it that the same?
Yeah.
Like I still have it, right?
Yeah.
And so letting go of those things looks different to everybody, but like I've heard it said before, like unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. Like I'm poisoning myself, but how do I stop? How do I let go? And for me, like I said before, it's coming to God and it's coming to him profoundly.
Yeah.
Sometimes like on the surface, like God just help me to let go. This person is irritating me and I don't want to hold it against them. Help me let it go. And sometimes it's like quiet everything up, put on some worship music, just like center yourself and be present with God, whatever that looks like to every individual. But it's like sometimes we let it go. Oh, I said this in my ministry in part because I deeply believe it. I believe that God can make those miracles that he showed in the Bible. He can do it now.
Yeah.
But in my experience, his miracles more often than in one moment come in the form of several instances, several moments, on and on. So I have like a new season, and maybe I took a few steps forward, but then I took some back, and then I take more forward, and I'm being released and I'm being set free. And as I grow, I feel like that's not what I want, right? I want it to be instantaneously, but it's what I need. There's a process, there's a journey, there's teaching and learning, and God doesn't waste it. I hold so close to my heart the scripture that God works all things together for our good. And that tells me that things are not wasted, even if it doesn't make sense to us, even if God doesn't reveal how he used this pain or how he took that tear and how he used it as a recipe for something better. I don't always know. And sometimes he does show me through time or in the moment. But if I knew, I wouldn't need faith.
Right.
I'm trusting him.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was gonna say, that if we know everything that was going to happen, tomorrow or in the, just the future, the rest of our lives, then we wouldn't need God. We wouldn't need faith and, to trust him on, decisions or what's gonna happen next.
Yeah. Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying, like forgiveness or even I don't know, getting rid of, anger or any of those, feelings that is preventing you from, being blessed and being a blessing to others looks different for everybody. Like how you're saying maybe about forgiveness, maybe like how you were saying about, let's say, this person that you just, this person hurt you, but maybe forgiveness looks like doing something kind for that person, even though that person hurt you.
Or forgiveness can be also what comes to mind, actually addressing it. Maybe you forgive in addressing it. Maybe that's how you let go and you hear out the person and their perspective. And maybe that healing comes by what they said when you brought it up.
Yeah.
There's just so many different ways to go about it. We can't always depend on that. Of course, people's capacities, like we said, are different, but there's different ways. And that's why I made sure, like that I said, this is how I do it, especially for the heavy stuff that, maybe it already got addressed. And maybe that person's still defending their point of view, and maybe they're still hurting you, and maybe you need to set the boundaries. Maybe you can't fully get them out of your life. That's okay, but maybe you can set some boundaries.
Yeah.
You know.
And it also, I think that it comes when the time is right for you. You know, someone else can't tell me, oh, well, you need to forgive this person. Or, I can't tell you, like, oh, well, you need to forgive this person now. Like, it has to be on your time. It has to be on my time, like, because I feel like it's based on your own relationship with God, right? Your own conviction.
I think so too. I would say that I would want to forgive as soon as possible for myself, because I don't want to feel that. But can we? No, not necessarily as soon as we want to, right? And then to me, in it, sometimes I feel like we get forgiveness mixed up with trust, because we put it on the other person. Like, no, I'm not going to forgive them. They did all these things to me. Okay, well, forgiveness to me is setting myself free of that pain that I feel, but I'm not necessarily going to trust them. I might not necessarily want a relationship with them. That's different, right? That's trust is earned. Forgiveness was given to us freely by Jesus, sacrificing himself on the cross, and he asks us to forgive freely. I don't remember reading a scripture where he says, and also trust freely. No, I'm huge on trust. It's a big deal for me. So when someone deeply breaks that trust, I have to evaluate if I'm going to give that person that opportunity to rebuild that trust again.
Yeah, same. But also I feel like forgiveness is also mistaken by, it's for the other person.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's for yourself.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that sometimes people, or even I've done it, like, oh, I want to forgive so we can move past it. But there's other things, if like we said, trust or other things that are broken that need to be addressed, but forgiveness sets ourselves free.
Yeah. Like how you were saying, about the poison is drinking poison, expecting someone else to die from it. But it's, it's you that's drinking it, it's you that's carrying that, that unforgiveness and that, resentment and all those, negative feelings that, essentially is preventing you from God blessing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for, it's preventing you from many things. One, God blessing you and God using you, because how can he use you when, you're mad at half of the world? Who are you going to minister, right?
God is so good though. Like even in our craziness, and he knows how hard we're trying to do better, to be better. He knows how we're struggling, all of that. And I just love him so much. I feel like in the past, or even sometimes still now, people were trying to make believers out of other people by saying, oh, if you're not a believer, you're going to go to hell. God's going to be angry with you. God's going to do this to you. That doesn't resonate with me. Like, I don't do the things that I do out of like fear for him. And let me just clarify, I know that that's in the Bible, but I don't receive it that way. I don't receive that we need to be literally afraid of God because he's going to come down and like beat us with his huge chancla or whatever. I don't resonate with that. To me, it's out of respect and out of honor and awe of him. And I'm so like just in love with him, and I trust him so much that he asks me to do something, and I don't doubt it like I used to. I don't question it like I used to. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, it goes to like this part where in your poem you're saying to be free, right? To be free to follow your calling, the calling that God's is calling you to do. Like, what is he calling you to do? And going back to childhood trauma or like unforgiveness and all this stuff can like prevent you from going after your calling, your insecurities, and just giving all that to God and just trusting his calling on your life.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think with that it says also to be free to be yourself and to recognize who you are, right? To accept yourself. And also when I say, to try to be the best version of yourself, I don't mean like, oh, let me pretend or let me, just show this side of me, because we have so many different sides of ourselves. But I think the best side of ourselves is finding who we are and healing, and knowing where we're at. Like, sometimes literally our best self is actually our worst self. Like if we're having a horrible season or we're going through the toughest thing we've ever been through, like the expectation can't be the same as when we're going through, a season of like flourishing and all of this. Like it can't be the same. Like our best self is different all the time, right? But between us knowing ourselves and God, just kind of revealing to himself, what does he want from us in this moment? What is my best self? And how can I prepare for my future self? I think we can be kind to ourselves. What I do in the night with like drinking my water and washing my face, and I'm being kind to future Irma, morning Irma, or like taking the vitamins, or whatever it is. Like we can do that for ourselves and make it the best possible, because we don't, life hits us. Like God never says that we're not going to go through hard things, like because we're believers. That's not the case. We are going to go through really hard things. And I wonder if like non-believers could say, well, then why do you want a God? Like, what's the whole purpose? Like, first of all, like for me, it's just, I totally am in love with him. I am so deeply connected with him. It's not that to, I'm here and I love him and I just want him to, oh, give me this and give me that and give me this and give me that. Like, he's not my lucky charm.
Yeah,
He
he's not a
is,
genie.
yeah, he's not that. And sometimes I feel like he does decide, okay, yes, I'm gonna give you that. Okay, fine. Ya que no me pare, ya que pare de pedírmelo, right? But I feel like he does do that. But also for me, the miracles are, like I said before, like are in a process, but also what he gives me through that process, right? What the hope, the joy, the miracles that come, that are supernatural, that are there and are not always recognized.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because we were asked, I'm part of this group, and we were asked last week that question of why do you believe in God, or do you believe there is a God, right? And so for me it was, well, what's the alternative? The alternative is not believing in anything. So I choose to believe, right? Even though I don't see him, right? I can't touch him, but I choose to believe, right? It's my choice. And like you said, we're just because we believe in God, or we're Christians, doesn't mean that we're not gonna go through trials, but what helps me through that is my choose to believe in something bigger, right? Something more powerful than me. Something, obviously in our case is God, gives me hope. As the alternative, as opposed to the alternative is, if you don't believe in anything, if you don't believe in God, well, what hope do you have when you're going through trials, right? When you're going through a hard season, or even in the good seasons. But I'd rather choose this alternative than the not believing in nothing alternative.
I yeah, I choose to believe in God. And for me, yes, I can't see him, and that is true, but I have no doubt, because for me, I have felt him. I have
Right.
heard him speak in to my heart, to my spirit. I don't have any doubts about that. And so whatever my relationship looks like, I I don't have any shame in that. Like,
Yeah.
some people can say, that that's not right to be mad at him, or that's not right to question him. Whatever the case is, like, I feel peace about being completely real and raw with him. Why wouldn't I? Like, even as a parent, like, we accept our kids, in their anger, in their frustration, in all of it. And we don't want them going through those really hard things all by themselves.
Yeah.
So if there's any way for me to understand God's love for me, is by me knowing my love for my children. And his is so much more greater, of
Right.
course.
And like even the opposite way, where understanding everyone's relationship with God is different. How you're saying that maybe for someone being angry at God is not a good thing, but for you it was part of my relationship with
Yeah.
God, right? Like, for you, you have three kids, and I'm pretty sure that even though you birth all three, they're all, three are yours, you have a different relationship with them, with each
Absolutely.
one of them.
Mhm.
Even if you're raising them all together, their personalities are just different. And I feel like that's how God sees us. And your relationship with God is different than my relationship with God.
Yeah. 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 So when I speak, I try to be, clear about, this is me. This is me. And if this is something you want to receive and implement, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you hang out with God differently, también igual. God is everywhere, and he he's not at a loss. He is also, in my opinion, not the one who's like making these bad things happen, just like we wouldn't say, okay, over our children, okay, this really ugly hard thing is going to happen to you, and I'm going to make something good out of it. I mean, I respect those opinions, and I get sort of where that's coming from, but in my opinion, I feel like we're in this world, and everybody has free will, to make these choices that affect other people. And our bodies are not perfect, our minds are not perfect. All of it is being in this world and things happening. And then you could say, well, then why does God allow it? Why does God allow it? Because he's given us free will. Because I'm going to give you actually an example that someone shared at church one day. He said he saw his little girl walking, or he just gave an example of a little girl walking, and she falls on the pavement and she hurts herself, and her dad goes and runs and helps her up, right? Like,
Mhm.
the dad didn't cause that to happen, but he was there to
Right.
help her come up. And
Right.
that's how I see it with God.
I see it as, if why are we blaming God for what, the sin and the that's happening in the world, when God created us in his perfect image? But if anything, we should blame Adam and Eve, right? For sin entering, on earth, right?
And that would be us too, though. We would be making those choices like they
Right.
did.
And God gave them a free will, and they
Mhm.
chose to disobey God. So it's the same thing for all of us. And obviously there's gonna be more into it. We're like, well, how do you
100%.
explain how do you explain for children to be, sick, and all these things? But I feel like, yes, God gave us a free will, but he didn't put sin in this earth. It was Adam and Eve. So
So
that's my take. And then that Jesus just came to wash us clean, right,
yeah,
from our sins, if we
yes,
accept him. And that's all we have to do, accept him.
yeah, yeah.
Um, like, change that. Like, how can she start seeing like a little bit like positive changes?
Hmm. I feel like I've addressed it a little bit here and there, and I think Oh, do you want me to do you want me to go? Are we
Oh yeah, just
okay? Okay, so I've addressed how to see yourself, as the person that you are and the things that you've been through, and how it takes so much for someone to overcome, and to do so much, and to acknowledge that and value it, right? Because you are of much value. And so when you begin to see yourself in that way, you can also start applying the things that you need. And so, in terms of the negative thoughts, I just, I mean, yes, these thoughts come, and you need to see yourself again in that value, in that light. How does God see me? He created me and crafted me so delicately and intricately. I mean, in His Word, He tells us how beautiful, we are to Him. And so when you see yourself, you can, in those ways, you can cancel those thoughts. You can say, no, I'm not that. I've been through this, and yes, I have these outbursts, but I am healing. I am working on that. I am. What does that look like for you? I started counseling recently, and I had such a struggle with. I had tried some, and I'm like, no. It almost felt like they're not telling me anything I don't already know, right? I'm pretty self-intuitive and whatnot, and emotionally intelligent, I guess. And so that's what it felt like. But I found someone that I had connected with. And I think that's super important. So even if it looks like you're just talking, because of some counselors, they just let you talk. They're not always like here for the feedback. Um, and I wanted feedback. I wanted, well, why do I do this? And I wasn't choosing the right counselor. And this counselor came up, and we had a good connection, and she doesn't tell me all the answers. She lets me talk, and in me talking, I'm processing, and I'm coming up with the answers. And she's like, I just like watching you figure it out. So whatever it looks like you need, make those steps happen. I've seen myself take my kids to the doctor for something I wouldn't take myself to the doctor for. Oh, it'll be fine. My body's just acting weird, whatever the case. And why do I take care of others so much more, or better than I take care of myself? There shouldn't be this struggle for that. Make those steps happen. And as soon as you take one step, then take another and take another. And then sometimes you got to sit with those 3 steps. Okay, I'm not ready to take another one. Okay, give yourself that space, give yourself that acknowledgement. Love yourself, see yourself, and speak well about yourself, because it's not that you're not being humble, because oh my gosh, Irma said that she's intelligent in the emotional realm. Yes, because that's how I see myself. So why could that be looked like, oh, she's so conceited or whatever. There was a season I was writing notes to myself. um, why do we put these expectations on other people and not even tell them sometimes, right? Like we just wish this would magically come together, and they can't read our minds, and we can't read theirs. So let's try to be direct. Let's try to acknowledge um, the elephant in the room.
yeah.
And
Yeah, going with that, I want to mention this. Something that I learned again today at church is be the answer to your prayer. So be that person that you need, right? So like if you're suffering from depression, reach out to someone who suffers from depression too, and be that person that you need. Does that make sense?
That's being direct. That's reaching out and being there for yourself, even when you're reaching out for someone else to be there for you, but you're that person that's reaching out. So we
Like
can't
you're encouraging that person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. To be there for yourself. I feel like God answers our prayers in many different ways, right? And He sends us help, and He sends us resources and whatnot. And sometimes he's saying, okay, I'm waiting for you.
Yeah.
You know what to do.
Yeah. So lastly, how can we, where can we find more of your journey?
So like I said about the blog, I have not been very active in it, but I mean, there's still like, I don't know how many, a few thousand poems on there. And I'm on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook. I mean, you could put it on there.
Yeah, I'll
right?
put it on here.
And if you're interested in any of our women's events, like we'll put it up on social media. We go to a church in Temecula, Rancho Community Church, the Spanish ministry.
I can put that link too on the.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, if anybody's interested, yeah, we're a group of people with very imperfect people, very imperfect, just like everywhere else. And we come from different backgrounds, and so like you hear different ways of viewing God and the Bible and all of that. And to me, that just never scares me. To me, that's actually intriguing.
Yeah.
And so that's who we are.
Different perspectives. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, so thank you so much for the chat. It was I feel like it was a great chat, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your some of your deep feelings that it's not easy for most people to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure. It's a great privilege, and if anybody takes anything away from it, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Thank you, and I'll see you ladies in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode inspired you. If you like this podcast, please share on social media and tag me on Instagram @thebraveandher. I would love to hear your stories of bravery.